Hello crafty friends. I've had some wonderful responses from this art journal page that I did with the napkins. The video that I did was very high speed with a voiceover. It was a really quick video and I've had quite a lot of questions on how I did it and a bit more detail required. So I thought I'll do another one, and I'll do this one in a regular speed and I'll talk through the process. I'll use a different napkin and slightly different, but the technique will be the same. So the art journal that I use is just a secondhand book that I found in the op shop, so it already has the text. A lot of people commented on the text that was shining through. If you don't have an art journal like this, it's just plain paper, you could just stick some down from a magazine or from an old book or anything. Any kind of text, even stamping, if you have like a script stamp, you could do it like that. I think for this kind of project, for me, I do like flowers. I think it works quite well. And I have this napkin that I got from an RAK. I actually got a ridiculous amount of napkins from a secret RAK person, somebody from, I think it was from Denmark, that sent it to me a little while ago. A huge bunch of napkins that I want to use and work through because they're absolutely beautiful. The one that I did in the first one with the yellow was also from those napkins, and I'm going to use this one. So I first decide how I want to place them. So I quite like this pink rose that I think I want to put in the bottom corner here. So I'm just going to roughly cut it out. I want to use that rosebud too. I'm just going to do a rough cut of this that I want. That'll go roughly like this. And then on this side, I quite like this dark purple. So I'm thinking of doing with the flowers sort of down this way. So I might just chop this section off that I don't need. Keep this for something else. We could even put it somewhere else. We'll see later. And this will probably go like that. Now there's a technique where you can use a wet paintbrush and go around where you want to cut it and it just rips, and that's fine. But if you're not new to my channel, you know that I'm quite impatient and I like things quick. So I'm just going to trim around it with my scissors, just where I want, because I don't need the whole napkin and I don't want this gold edging because that's just too bold for us to be able to blend the background. I'm just going to trim around, just roughly. That'll go in that corner. And then for this one, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the leaves yet, so I'll just keep them for now. We can always cut them off later. A lot of people have also asked where to get nice napkins from. Now, I know there's lots of places. You can get them from eBay. I live in Australia and we can actually get really pretty napkins from like the Reject Shop or the $2 shops, those party shops. There's a lot of different places you could get nice ones, but I know there's also some artsy ones that you could find on the web. And even Etsy would have. So we put this one, I think, like that. Now we're going to have to separate the layers. This one is actually a triple layer one. So we need just the top layer because we want the very thin layer so that the writing can shine through. So that's one layer off. Just be gentle because it can tear. And be sure that you get all the layers off. As you can see, that's 3 layers. We just want the top layer. And it's just very soft, and oh, you can see how beautiful that's going to look with the text shining through. Let's just do the same with this one. Sometimes they're quite tricky to get apart. These ones aren't too bad. I've had times before where I can spend half an hour trying just to separate them, which is quite frustrating. There we go. Oopsie. this one's going to go like that. Oh, it's going to look lovely. Now I'm going to use some Mod Podge to stick these down. You can also use craft glue, gel medium, whatever you have. I like using my Mod Podge. I'm just going to pop these papers underneath. With my art journal, I tend to stick a few pages together to make it thicker and more absorbent because I use a lot of paints. And then I also tear pages in between to thin the book down, otherwise it's going to be too thick by the end if everything is stuck together. So just roughly in the area where this is going to stick. And then we sort of position it on top and just press down as you go, very gently, because there will be some buckling, but you don't want too much buckling. So just sort of press it down and lower it as you go, very gently, because they can tear. Just like that. And then just add a little bit more as you need. And then we'll do the other side too. Very gently. Doesn't matter if that corner isn't covered, we can use paint there, that's fine. And there we go, we've got the napkin down. Just going to stick these. I think we'll leave the leaves, or maybe I don't want the leaves. I can maybe use that wet technique now just to get some of these off, because I think it might be just a bit too green. We could always lighten it with gesso, it doesn't really matter. But I do want the purple of the flower to shine. So I might just take, the purple's a bit more, stands out a little bit more if it doesn't have so much green around it. It's already quite wet from the glue, so it's tearing quite easily. Just don't rip the flowers or the parts that you want. Yes, I think that's better. And now we're just going to trim the excess. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We can neaten it off at the end. This way is easier. We can actually see what you're doing. There we go. Now I'm just going to dry that, and then I'm going to cover it with some clear gesso so that when we paint it, the paint doesn't seep into the napkin and the image stays vivid and bright. Right, now that the Mod Podge is dry, I'm going to add a layer of clear gesso over the napkin area. This will protect when I paint that the color doesn't run onto the tissue and get absorbed, because you don't want that. You want this to remain a picture of its own. Just the other one. And then something else I will do is put a thin layer of white gesso on the text part, which will be used for the painting, but I don't want the background to be so bold with the writing. I want to tone it down. So I'm just going to add a thin layer of the gesso, and then to make it thin, I just add a little bit of water. So I add the gesso and just dip my paintbrush in some water and then just smush it around. So you can still see the text shining through, but you do have some white from the gesso. Doesn't matter if it goes on the napkin. I mean, we're going to paint over it, so it's not a problem. Right, now we're going to dry that, and then we can do some stenciling. I'm actually going to add, the book is starting to buckle a bit from the wetness of the paints from previous projects, so I'm just going to add a little piece of washi tape down the center. The only wide one I have is this wood grain, but that's okay because I will put some of this, paste some of this paper over. So just try to waterproof it a little bit because the paints do tend to soak through. Again, doesn't matter if it buckles a little bit, it's all part of the texture. And with art journaling, texture is perfectly fine. And then I'm going to take, it's from the same book, so it's matching. I'll just take a strip. I'm just going to stick that over. All part of the background. I'll just use the Mod Podge. There we go. And we'll put a bit of white gesso over that too when the Mod Podge is dry. A piece of text that I pasted down. doesn't matter if it doesn't look perfect, we are going to cover this up with stenciling and painting. Alright, so let's just try that. Crowned into, so it doesn't have a definite edge. The way I found works is to do some stenciling so that when the color blends, it has something to sort of work against in like the grooves of the stencil. I'm going to use the same stencil that I used in my first one like this. This stencil is from Kmart here in Australia, but you can use any design that you have. It doesn't really matter. I'm using texture paste. You could use gesso too. I used to use gesso, but obviously that's a little bit thinner and it tends to seep underneath, where texture paste is a firmer consistency. But if you only have gesso, that's fine too. You can also, I have read, and I haven't tried that if you can just put some plaster of Paris or even baby powder in gesso, you can get a texture paste. So what we're going to try and do is get the stencil between the areas that we need to blend. So I'm going to start on this side, and it's not going to have to be even and perfect, but it's going to go a little bit over the napkin and then up onto the page. Like that. And then over here too. Now it's a bit difficult sometimes to do it in the groove, but I'll see how I can manage. I do like working across the double page, but sometimes it can be a little tricky. So I'll just press it down. I don't want to cover the purple flower too much because I really like that, but I want to try and get around it. Now, because of the way the book is, it's gotten really thick in the center. We will just scrape that off. Just blend that a little bit. Do some more here. Some at the top. I might need to dry it in between just so that we don't smudge it too much. I love using texture paste through stencils. One of my favorites. And then I love using the color over it and seeing how it runs and goes into the grooves. It's like a kind of magic. Art magic. I'm going to start the painting now. All the texture paste is dry, and I'm going to start with my lightest color first, and I'm going to use this. It's an acrylic paint. It's called Rich Gold. It's got a beautiful metallic finish to it, and I'm going to use it first because it's got like sort of like a gold color in the background. And I forgot to bring my mixing trays from inside the house, but that's okay. I'll just find something to work on. Just going to put some of the color down. We're going to use quite a bit of water. We're going to have a wet paintbrush and a little spray bottle of water that we're going to keep spraying. We just find a thinnish paintbrush. I want a very thick paintbrush. And we're just going to start just dabbing it. There's no specific wet place to start. You just get going. Now this acrylic paint is quite transparent, but it leaves a beautiful sheen when it's dry, which I really like. So we're just going to spray and paint and spray, just in areas. And as you go, you're going to try and blend it into the background. The colors won't always be exactly the same, but if you use like a splotchy technique with a lot of water, let the colors blend. You can't really see where the napkin starts and where it ends, which is what the technique that you're trying to get. Have lots of clean water available so it allows you to just put water on a wet paintbrush. Because the tissue paper from the napkin is quite thin, you can actually blend the color pretty well. I was nervous when I first used napkins, thinking, how am I going to get the edges to blend and you're going to be able to see it's a napkin. But if you just try a few different techniques, it comes right. Just keep trying until something works. Always start with the lightest color first, because you can always go darker, but you can't go lighter. I'll just put a little bit. I have a very squeaky chair, and every time I lean forward it's making squeaky noises. And just spray. The spray helps it just to spread, and it normally goes in between the grooves of the stenciling, which I really, really love. So that should work for our first lot. I might do a little bit down here by the bud. We'll just dry the first layer. Next I'm going to use this. It's a beautiful green. It's called Sage. It's by Gesso. I've recently bought it. I wanted to try the Gesso acrylics, and I really love this color. And as you can see, it's quite similar to some of the greens in the background, so I think that'll work quite well. So just put a little bit. And we're going to do the same technique, quite a bit of water, and we're just going to go in the other areas. And we can go over the gold too. We can overlap colors, because that's fine. Some colors will blend and create new colors, because otherwise we don't want just like gold and green and the next color. We want them to blend and incorporate into each other. And as we're doing this, we're going down into the napkin, which then also allows us to blend. You can also help it along. If you lift the pages, it can run down in the direction that you want. We don't want too many puddles, so I am going to just dab up some of these big drops. I really love this green. It's very beautiful. some of the rosebud here will get covered up, and that's okay. It's going to sort of shine through, but the focal point would be this pink rose. So it doesn't matter if not everything is clearly visible and there's some texture paste over the rest. That's perfectly fine. And we don't only want color in the textured areas by the stenciling, we want color in the plain areas too, so we tend to just let that run into splotches and sort of meet in the middle. And getting lighter and more watery as you get there. I find this extremely relaxing, and I do enjoy doing this. I mean, today is Friday, it's been a long week of work and remote learning with the kids, and this is just relaxation. And if it doesn't work out the way you want it, it doesn't matter. It's you experimenting and trying, and you can always paint over it, you can start again. That's what I love about art journaling. There's no right and wrong, and you can just keep adding and adding. Just collecting all the drips down the middle. I don't want soggy puddles, but I do want the color to go across, so I'll just lift it up. Just do a spray, and you can lift, and if you lift it you can get some of the color running. We'll work with the darker green in here, but we'll put some of the lighter green to shine through. I'm liking that. I think it's working out quite good. I don't want very like definite edges where it's drying, so I'm just going to dab up some of the wet puddles. Yes, I am liking this. Right, let's dry that a little bit and we'll go with the next color. Right, we're going to go with the darker green. I have this leaf green, but I'm going to add a little drop of Prussian blue, which I only have in actually a watercolor, not acrylic, but that's okay. And we'll need some white. Just mix the colors until you get something that you like, that suits your background. It's a little bit too bright green, so I'm adding a little bit of the blue just to tone that down a bit. Might need a little bit more, it's still too greeny green. Just add a bit more of this. just lift the book in the direction that you want the colors to flow. That'll just help it. Maybe just dab with water. See how it runs. And again, just need to lap up these puddles in the middle. What I might do is add that blue to the sage, because I'm thinking that green is still a little bit too bright. That's a bit more toned down. I'm thinking we might need to bring a little bit of this pink maybe to the side, or the purple. I have this, it's actually a pouring paint, so it's very runny, but we could use the color, which is what we need. Not sure if that'll work, but we can give it a go. No, I'm not quite sure I want pink. I think we should just keep the pink to where the flowers are. I'll do the greens. I'll do a dark corner there with this Prussian blue. Quite like those strips. I'll probably just leave those strips there.
I'm adding some white so I can add some contrast. I started with the acrylic paint, but I found that a bit too transparent, so I'm going with the gesso and I'm just applying it with my finger. I love the milky, soft look that it leaves when I do this technique. As a final touch, I'm adding some wording. I've got this from a Gesso Craft 12-inch by 12-inch paper. I've just cut a section of it off that has this wording, and I thought the green suits this quite well, and I'm just going to attach it with the hot glue. I hope you enjoyed this different style video from me. Mine are normally short and sweet. This one's a bit more lengthy. I hope you gained some knowledge on this technique. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell button so you can get notification when I upload new content. I'll see you again soon. Bye.